You cheated on me! I will get my revenge!
The email arrived at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. The subject line read, "You need to see this." No sender name, just a string of random letters and numbers. I almost deleted it. Should have deleted it. But something in my gut told me to click. The link opened to a video file. Grainy security footage from what looked like a bathroom. Corporate bathroom, judging by the marble countertops and fancy soap dispensers. The timestamp showed last Thursday, 2:23 p.m., company anniversary week. Then I saw her face. Sienna, my wife of 14 years, HR director at Blackstone Construction, the firm I'd worked at for 8 years before my back injury forced me into consulting. She was pressed against the sink, skirt hiked up, moaning like she hadn't in our bedroom for months. The man behind her was unmistakable. Trevor Burke, CEO, 46 years old, salt and pepper hair, the kind of smile that made city council members sign permits they shouldn't. I watched it twice, had to be sure. The third time I noticed the anniversary banner hanging outside the bathroom door. Company party. While I was at home, icing my back, she was getting screwed by her boss in a bathroom stall. My coffee mug shattered against the wall. The sound echoed through my empty house like a gunshot. 3 blocks away, construction crews were pouring concrete for another strip mall. Life moving forward while mine imploded in high definition. I sat there for 20 minutes, staring at the frozen screen. Sienna's face, eyes closed, lost in something she'd never shown me. Not since the first year of marriage, anyway. Maybe not even then. The anonymous sender had attached a note. "Thought you should know. There's more where this came from. A friend." More. Jesus Christ, there was more. My phone buzzed. Text from Sienna. "Working late tonight, budget reviews. Don't wait up." Sent at 4:15 p.m. I checked the timestamp on the video again. She'd sent that text 30 minutes after getting railed by Trevor Burke. I forwarded the video to my personal email, then deleted everything from the work account. Evidence preservation, my old man would have called it. 20 years in the Marines taught him to document everything. Paper trail saves lives, son. Remember that? The garage felt safer than the house. I'd converted half of it into a makeshift gym after the injury. Pull-up bar, free weights, a heavy bag that had taken more punishment than it deserved. The other half held my truck, a 2018 Ford F-150 that ran like a dream because I actually maintained it. Unlike my marriage. I pulled out my phone and called James Hendricks, my lawyer. Not divorce lawyer, corporate litigation. We'd worked together on construction disputes for 5 years. If anyone could help me navigate this mess legally, it was him. "Eli, what's up?" His voice carried that practiced calm that made him worth his hourly rate. "I need to see you. Tonight, if possible. It's about Sienna." Pause. "Everything okay?" "No, everything's screwed. But I need legal advice before I do something stupid. Come by the office. I'll be here until 8. The drive across town gave me time to think. Sienna had been distant for months, hiding behind her mental health advocacy persona she'd developed for LinkedIn. Posts about workplace wellness, stress management, the importance of self-care, all while carrying on with her married boss. The irony wasn't lost on me. HR director preaching about healthy workplace environments while screwing the CEO in company bathrooms. You couldn't write this crap. James's office occupied the 4th floor of a downtown building that had seen better decades. Law books lined the walls, certificates hung in perfect rows, and the coffee was always stronger than hospital grade. He looked up from his computer as I walked in, took one look at my face, and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. "Show me," he said. I pulled up the video on my phone. James watched without expression, making notes on a legal pad. When it finished, he set down his pen and leaned back in his chair. "How did you get this? Anonymous email? Untraceable sender? Could be a setup. Could be someone with a grudge against Trevor or your wife. Could be legitimate. Either way, you need to be careful how you handle this." "What are my options?" James took a sip of whiskey. "Legally? Alienation of affection is still recognized in some jurisdictions, but it's tricky. You'd need to prove that Trevor intentionally interfered with your marriage, and that your marriage was happy before the affair." It was happy. The lie came easily. We'd been roommates with shared expenses for 2 years. "Can you prove it? Photos, witnesses, documentation of your relationship before the affair started?" I thought about our last vacation, 2 years ago, Myrtle Beach. We'd barely spoken to each other, spent most of the time on our phones. The photos looked happy enough, I guess, social media happiness. What else? You could pursue defamation if she's been bad-mouthing you publicly, maltreatment if Trevor's been targeting you professionally. But honestly, Eli, your best bet is probably a clean divorce. Document everything, get a good family lawyer, and move on. What if I don't want to move on? James set down his glass. Then you need to decide if you want revenge or justice. They're not the same thing. I left his office with a list of recommended divorce attorneys and a warning about doing anything that could be construed as maltreatment or intimidation. Sound legal advice that I had no intention of following. The company's annual rooftop summer party was scheduled for this Friday. Black tie optional, open bar, speeches about growth and innovation. Trevor always gave a presentation about the company's vision for the future. Standing ovation, champagne toasts, the whole dog and pony show. I'd been invited, of course. Former employee, current consultant, still on good terms with most of the staff. At least, they thought I was. The party was held at the Meridian Hotel, downtown Chicago. 23rd floor, wraparound terrace, city lights stretching to the horizon. I'd helped plan these events for 8 years. Knew the layout, the schedule, the technical setup. I arrived at 7:30 wearing my best suit, navy blue, tailored, the one Sienna had bought me for our anniversary 2 years ago. The irony felt appropriate. I checked my gear one more time: laptop, mini projector, HDMI cables, and a flash drive containing the bathroom video. The party was already in full swing. 200 people mingling on the terrace, servers weaving through the crowd with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. I spotted Sienna near the bar, wearing a black dress that showed off her figure, laughing at something one of the junior associates had said. She looked beautiful, radiant even. Trevor held court near the far railing, surrounded by city officials and potential investors. He was in his element: expensive suit, confident smile, the kind of presence that made people want to do business with him. I watched him for 5 minutes, memorizing his mannerisms, his gestures, the way he commanded attention. At 8:15, the lights dimmed for Trevor's presentation. A massive LED screen had been set up against the north wall, connected to a laptop on a small table. I'd helped set up similar displays dozens of times. Standard corporate AV equipment, nothing fancy. Trevor took the microphone, tapped it twice, and smiled at the crowd. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another successful year at Blackstone Construction. Polite applause. I moved closer to the AV table, keeping my head down, staying in the shadows. The tech guy was chatting with a server, distracted. Perfect. As we look toward the future, Trevor continued, I want to talk about the values that drive our success. Integrity, dedication, and above all, trust. I swapped the HDMI cable in 15 seconds, disconnected the laptop, connected my mini projector. The screen flickered for a moment, then resumed showing Trevor's presentation slides. No one noticed. These values aren't just words on a wall, Trevor said. They're the foundation of everything we do. They're what make Blackstone Construction a family. I waited until he reached the slide about company culture. Then I hit play. The bathroom video filled the massive screen. Crystal clear, unmistakable. Sienna bent over the marble sink, Trevor behind her, both of them lost in the moment. The sound was muted, but the visual was devastating. The crowd went silent. 200 people staring at their HR director getting screwed by their CEO in a company bathroom. Someone dropped a champagne glass. It shattered against the concrete floor like a starting pistol. Trevor's face went white. He spun around, saw the screen, and his mouth fell open. The microphone was still in his hand, broadcasting his shock to the entire party. What the hell? Turn it off. Turn it off! The tech guy scrambled for the controls, but I'd already pocketed the remote. The video kept playing. 30 seconds felt like an eternity. Sienna saw it next. She was standing near the bar, talking to someone from accounting, when the conversation around her died. She followed their stares to the screen and froze. Her face went through a spectrum of emotions: confusion, recognition, horror, and finally, rage. She found me in the crowd. Our eyes met across the terrace. In that moment, she knew. I smiled and raised my champagne glass in a mock toast. Trevor was screaming now. Security! Get security up here! Someone's hacked the system! But it was too late. The damage was done. People were already pulling out their phones, recording the chaos, taking pictures of the screen. By morning, it would be all over social media. The downfall of Trevor Burke caught on camera. I set down my champagne and walked toward the exit. No rush, no panic. Just a man finishing his evening and heading home. Trevor intercepted me near the door. His face was red, veins bulging in his neck. "You sick fool, you're finished. Do you hear me?" "Finished." "Trevor," I said calmly, "you're the one who's finished. I just helped everyone see what kind of man you really are." He swung at me, clumsy, off balance, fueled by rage and embarrassment. I'd been expecting it. Military training kicked in, block, counter, follow through. My right cross caught him square in the jaw. The sound was like a baseball bat hitting a watermelon. Trevor dropped like a sack of concrete. Crimson smear poured from his mouth, probably a broken jaw. The crowd gasped and backed away. Someone screamed. Security arrived 30 seconds later. 3 guards, all muscle, all business. They tackled me to the ground, cuffed my hands behind my back. One of them pressed his knee into my ribs, and I felt something crack. "You're under arrest for attack," the lead guard said. I looked over at Trevor, who was being helped to his feet by 2 waiters. His jaw was already swelling, and he was spitting crimson smear onto the expensive tiles. "Worth it," I said. The holding cell at the downtown precinct was exactly what you'd expect. Concrete walls, metal toilet, a bench that had seen better decades. I spent the weekend there, nursing my broken rib and planning my next move. The attack charge was straightforward. Public venue, 200 witnesses, video evidence. My lawyer, a different one, specialized in criminal defense, managed to get me released on my own recognizance Monday morning. Court date set for next month. I walked out of the precinct into a gray Chicago morning. The weather matched my mood. Overcast, threatening rain. The kind of day that made you want to stay inside and avoid human contact. My truck was still in the hotel parking lot. $80 parking ticket under the windshield. I paid it at the meter and drove home, listening to talk radio hosts debate the video that had already gone viral. CEO caught in bathroom scandal was trending on Twitter. The clip had been viewed 3 million times. The house felt different. Empty, but not in a bad way. More like a clean slate. I walked through the rooms looking at 14 years of shared life. Wedding photos, vacation pictures, her books mixed in with mine on the shelves. It would all have to be sorted, divided, cataloged for the divorce. I was making coffee when someone knocked on the door. Persistent, urgent knocking. I looked through the peephole and saw a young woman I didn't recognize. Asian, maybe late 20s, wearing a business suit and carrying a leather portfolio. I opened the door. "Can I help you?" "Mr. North?" "My name is Nora Fielding. I worked for Trevor Burke. I have information you might find useful." I let her in. She sat on the edge of my couch, nervous energy radiating from her posture. Her hands shook slightly as she opened her portfolio. "I was Trevor's executive assistant for 3 years," she said. "I know what he's been doing, not just with your wife, with other women, with the company finances, with everything." She handed me a flash drive. "This contains copies of emails, financial records, HR complaints that were buried, everything. Why are you giving this to me?" "Because he fired me this morning, said I was a security risk, that I couldn't be trusted. 3 years of perfect performance reviews, and he throws me away like garbage because he's embarrassed." I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. The files were organized by date and category. Emails between Trevor and Sienna dating back 8 months. Financial records showing questionable transactions. HR complaints from female employees that had been dismissed or buried. "How did you get all this?" "I'm his assistant. I have access to everything, had access. And after what he did to me," she shrugged, "I figured you deserved to know the truth." I scrolled through the emails. Trevor and Sienna had been planning this for months. Not just the affair, but the divorce. They'd discussed how to make me look unstable, how to maximize her settlement, how to discredit me professionally. My own wife, plotting my destruction with her lover. "There's more," Nora said. "I've been in contact with other former employees, women who were maltreated, threatened, forced out. They're willing to testify if you decide to pursue legal action. What do you want in return? I want Trevor Burke destroyed, completely. I want him to lose everything, the way he tried to destroy me, and God knows how many other women." I looked at the young woman sitting on my couch, offering me the tools for revenge. 3 days ago, I'd been a boring consultant with a failing marriage. Now I was a criminal defendant with an arsenal of evidence against one of the most powerful men in the city. What's your background, Nora? Business administration, Northwestern. 3 years at Blackstone. 2 years before that at a law firm. I know how these systems work, Mr. North. I know how to hurt people like Trevor. I made a decision that would change everything. Call me Eli. And let's talk about what comes next. We spent the next 3 hours going through the files. The evidence was damning. Trevor had been skimming from construction contracts, hiding the money in offshore accounts. He'd sexually maltreated at least 6 female employees, paying them off with company funds to keep quiet. He'd been manipulating city permits, bribing officials, running Blackstone Construction like his personal kingdom. This is enough to destroy him, I said. It's enough to put him in prison, Nora corrected. But we need to be smart about how we use it. He still has powerful friends, political connections. If we move too fast, they'll protect him. What do you suggest? Slow burn. Start with the civil suits. Get the other women to come forward. Build media attention. Make him toxic before we hit him with the criminal charges. Smart girl. I was beginning to understand why Trevor had seen her as a threat. My phone buzzed. Text from Sienna. We need to talk. Coming home tonight. I showed the message to Nora. She smirked. She's probably panicking. The video went viral, her career's over, and now she needs to do damage control. What should I tell her? Nothing. Let her sweat. The more desperate she gets, the more mistakes she'll make. Nora left around 5, taking copies of the files with her. She was going to contact the other women, start building a coalition. I had homework too, research lawyers, plan legal strategy, prepare for war. Sienna arrived at 7:30. I heard her car in the driveway, then the front door opening. She called my name, voice tight with stress. I was sitting in the living room, drinking a beer, watching the news coverage of the party. The local stations were having a field day. Construction company CEO caught in bathroom scandal. Viral video rocks Chicago business community. CEO's affair exposed at company party. She walked into the room and stopped when she saw me. Her face was puffy like she'd been crying. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged. The confident HR director was gone, replaced by a woman who looked like she'd been hit by a truck. Eli, she said, we need to talk. Do we? This is insane. What you did was insane. You humiliated me in front of everyone I work with. You destroyed my career. I didn't destroy your career, Sienna. You did that when you decided to screw your boss in a bathroom stall. She flinched. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I watched the video several times, very educational. You don't understand. Trevor and I, it's complicated. Complicated, I laughed. That's what we're calling infidelity now? Complicated? You've been distant for years, Eli. We haven't been happy. We haven't been intimate. I was lonely, and Trevor was there, and it just happened. For 8 months? According to the emails, it just happened for 8 months. Her face went white. What emails? The ones where you and Trevor planned my divorce? Where you discussed how to make me look unstable? Where you calculated how much money you could steal from me in the settlement? I don't know what you're talking about. Sienna, I have copies of everything. Every email, every text, every plan you made to destroy me. So let's not pretend this was just a moment of weakness. This was calculated, deliberate, and cruel. She sat down heavily on the couch, her face in her hands. Oh God, this is a nightmare. For you, maybe. For me, it's clarity. For the first time in years, I can see exactly what my life has become. What do you want, Eli? Money? I'll give you whatever you want. Just make this stop. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from you. I want you out of my house. This is my house too. I have rights. You have the right to shut off. Exercise it. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a physical blow. I set down my beer and stared at her. What? I'm pregnant. 6 weeks. I just found out yesterday. Is it mine? I don't know. The timing. It could be either of you. Either of us. My wife didn't know if she was carrying my child or her lover's. The situation had moved beyond mere betrayal into something darker, more twisted. Have you told Trevor? I tried. He won't return my calls. His assistant says he's unavailable. Former assistant. He fired Nora this morning. How do you know that? Because she came to see me. Brought me a very interesting collection of files. Trevor's been busy, Sienna. Embezzlement, sexual maltreatment, bribery. You picked a real winner. This is insane. You're insane. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Tell them how your husband discovered your affair and exposed it publicly. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. She stood up, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. I'm staying at my sister's tonight. We'll figure this out tomorrow. Don't bother. I'm filing for divorce. Contest it if you want, but the evidence is overwhelming. You'll be lucky to get anything. She stopped at the door. Eli, please. I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling. Start over. We can't start over, Sienna. You burned it all down. The only question now is whether you want to walk away with some dignity or let me destroy you completely. She left without another word. I heard her car start, then drive away. The house was quiet again, but it felt different now. Not empty. Clean. Like the air after a thunderstorm. I called my sister Lana. We'd been distant for years, the way families get when life takes you in different directions. She was a therapist in Milwaukee, divorced, 2 kids. We talked maybe twice a year. Eli? What's wrong? Everything. My marriage is over. I'm probably going to prison, and I might be having the time of my life. Slow down. What happened? I told her everything. The video, the party, the arrest, the evidence. She listened without interrupting, the way therapists do. Jesus, Eli, I'm so sorry. Don't be. I'm not. Are you okay? I mean, really okay? I'm better than I've been in years. That's probably not normal, is it? Revenge can be intoxicating, but it's also destructive. You need to be careful not to lose yourself in this. What if I already have? What if this is who I really am? Then you need help. Professional help. This isn't healthy, Eli. Maybe not, but it's honest. For the first time in years, I'm being completely honest about who I am and what I want. What do you want? I want Trevor Burke to suffer. I want him to lose everything. I want him to feel the same humiliation and powerlessness that I felt when I watched that video. And then what? I haven't thought that far ahead. You should, because revenge is like a pill. The high doesn't last, and the crash is brutal. After we hung up, I sat in my living room and thought about what she'd said. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was unhealthy. But unhealthy felt better than the slow end of my marriage, the grinding mediocrity of my life before the video. I pulled out my laptop and started researching. If I was going to destroy Trevor Burke, I needed to understand him completely. His background, his connections, his weaknesses. The internet was a goldmine of information for someone who knew how to look. Trevor had grown up wealthy, attended private schools, inherited his first construction company from his father. He'd built Blackstone through acquisitions and political connections, not talent or hard work. He was married to a woman named Patricia, no children, lived in a mansion in Lake Forest. His hobbies included golf, sailing, and apparently screwing his employees. I found photographs from charity events, business journals, society pages, Trevor and Patricia at galas, fundraisers, political dinners. They looked happy enough, but rich people were good at appearances. Then I found something interesting. A blog post from 2 years ago, written by a woman named Jennifer Walsh, former Blackstone employee claiming sexual maltreatment by Trevor. The post had been taken down, but the internet never forgets. I found a cached version. Jennifer described a pattern of behavior that matched what I'd seen in the files. Late meetings, inappropriate comments, escalating pressure. When she complained to HR, she'd been told it was a misunderstanding. When she'd pressed the issue, she'd been fired for performance issues. I found her contact information through social media. She was working at a nonprofit now, seemed to be doing well. I sent her a message. My name is Eli North. I have information about Trevor Burke that you might find interesting, she replied within an hour. I've been waiting for someone to take him down. Let's talk. We met at a coffee shop in Lincoln Park the next morning. Jennifer was in her 30s, professional, attractive in a way that would have caught Trevor's attention. She brought a folder full of documents, emails, performance reviews, notes from meetings. I saved everything, she said. I knew someday someone would need proof. Why didn't you pursue legal action? I tried, but Trevor has connections. My lawyer advised me to take the settlement and move on. Said I'd never win against someone with his resources. What if you had other women backing you up? A pattern of behavior, multiple sufferers? That would change everything, but getting women to come forward is hard. They're scared, and they have every right to be. What if they didn't have to come forward alone? She leaned forward. What are you planning? I'm going to destroy Trevor Burke. Completely. And I'm going to do it legally, systematically, and publicly. Would you be willing to help? What's in it for you? You're not one of his sufferers. He's been screwing my wife for 8 months. He's stolen from his company, maltreated his employees, and corrupted city officials. Someone needs to stop him. And you think you're the one to do it? I know I am. Jennifer smiled for the first time since I'd met her. Okay. Let's burn him down. We spent the next 2 hours planning strategy. Jennifer would contact other former employees, women who'd been maltreated or intimidated. I would work with Nora to document the financial crimes. Together, we'd build a case that would destroy Trevor's reputation, his business, and his freedom. The legal system moved slowly, but public opinion was faster. I started feeding information to reporters, bloggers, anyone who would listen. Anonymous tips about Trevor's conduct, his finances, his political connections. The story grew legs, spread across social media, gained momentum. By Friday, 3 more women had come forward. The Chicago Tribune ran a front-page story. Construction CEO faces multiple maltreatment claims. The video from the party had been viewed 10 million times. Blackstone's stock price was in freefall. Trevor fought back the only way he knew how, with money and violence. He hired a team of lawyers, private investigators, and public relations experts. He tried to discredit the women, claim the video was fake, blame everything on a disgruntled employee. Then he made a mistake. He sent men to scare me. I was leaving the grocery store Thursday evening when they approached. 2 guys, mid-30s, trying to look casual but failing. They followed me to my truck, waited until I was loading bags into the bed. Eli North? I turned around. They were standing close, trying to intimidate me with their size. Both were bigger than me, but they had the soft look of men who'd never been in a real fight. Yeah. We have a message from Mr. Burke. He wants you to stop what you're doing. Go back to your quiet life, forget about him and your wife. Otherwise, things might get unpleasant. Unpleasant how? Accidents happen, houses burn down, people get hurt. You understand? I looked at them for a long moment. They thought they were dealing with a broken man, someone who'd fold under pressure. They were wrong. I understand perfectly, I said, but I think you misunderstand me. I opened the truck's glove compartment and showed them my Glock 19, legal carry permit, properly registered, completely above board. Their confidence evaporated. This is a public parking lot, I said. You're threatening me in front of witnesses. I'm armed, trained, and completely within my rights to defend myself. So let me ask you a question. Are you willing to die for Trevor Burke? They looked at each other, then back at me. The calculation was simple. They were getting paid to scare me, not to take a bullet. This isn't over, one of them said. Yes, it is. And if I see you again, or if anything happens to my property, I'll assume you're trying to damage me, and I'll respond accordingly. They left. I finished loading my groceries, drove home, and called Detective Evan Wolf. He was the investigating officer for my attack case. Seemed like a decent guy who actually cared about justice. Detective, I need to report a threat. 2 men approached me in a parking lot tonight. Said they were working for Trevor Burke. Did they threaten you directly? They said accidents happen, houses burn down, people get hurt. I took that as a threat. Any witnesses? Security cameras, probably. It was at the Whole Foods on North Avenue. I'll check it out. In the meantime, be careful. And document everything. The next day, Friday, was the 1-week anniversary of the bathroom video. I marked the occasion by filing a civil lawsuit against Trevor Burke for alienation of affection, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The amount, $5 million. My lawyer, a shark named William Garrett, held a press conference on the courthouse steps. He was expensive, aggressive, and had a reputation for taking down powerful men. Perfect for what I needed. Trevor Burke has misused his position of power to destroy families, maltreat employees, and corrupt our city government, Garrett said. My client is seeking justice, not just for himself, But for all the women who've been victimized by this hunter, the media loved it. By evening, the story was national news. CEO faces lawsuit over bathroom video scandal. Construction company boss accused of maltreatment pattern. Husband seeks revenge in court. Trevor's response was predictable. His lawyers filed a motion to dismiss, claiming the video was illegally obtained and that I was seeking to profit from my own criminal behavior. They also suggested that my wife was the sufferer of revenge adult movie, that I was a dangerous, unstable individual who should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The strategy might have worked if the evidence hadn't been so overwhelming. But every day brought new revelations, former employees coming forward with stories of maltreatment, financial records showing embezzlement, city officials distancing themselves from Trevor's projects. The breaking point came when Patricia Burke, Trevor's wife, filed for divorce. She'd been silent through the scandal, standing by her husband, maintaining the facade of a happy marriage. But when the financial crimes became public, when she realized how much money Trevor had stolen, she hired her own lawyer and sued for half of everything. Trevor's empire was crumbling. Blackstone's board of directors called an emergency meeting. Investors pulled out, construction projects were canceled. The company that had taken him 30 years to build was disintegrating in 2 weeks. I should have felt satisfied. This was what I'd wanted, Trevor's complete destruction. But victory felt hollow. My marriage was over. My wife was pregnant with another man's child, and I was facing criminal charges for attack. Revenge had a price, and I was paying it. The final confrontation came on a Tuesday evening in October. I was leaving my lawyer's office after a deposition when I spotted Trevor's Jaguar in the parking garage. He was waiting for me, leaning against his car, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Eli," he said as I approached. "We need to talk." "Nothing to talk about, Trevor. See you in court. Please, 5 minutes, man to man." I stopped walking. He looked pathetic, expensive suit wrinkled, hair disheveled, the confident CEO replaced by a desperate man facing ruin. "You've won," he said. "You've destroyed everything I built. My company, my marriage, my reputation. Are you happy now?" "Getting there." "What do you want? Money?" "I'll pay whatever you're asking. Just make it stop." "I don't want your money." "I want you to suffer. I am suffering. Every day, every night. I can't sleep, can't eat. My wife won't speak to me. My friends have abandoned me. I'm ruined." "Good. You don't understand. I never meant for this to happen. Sienna and I, it started as friendship. She was unhappy. I was lonely. It just evolved into you screwing her in a bathroom stall. That was a mistake, a moment of weakness, but the rest of it, the emails, the plans, that was her idea. She wanted the divorce, wanted to take half your assets. I was just going along with it." "You're lying." "I'm not. Check the timestamps on the emails. She initiated most of them. She's the one who suggested making you look unstable. She's the one who wanted to destroy you. I wanted to knock him again, break his jaw properly this time. But I controlled myself. Violence wouldn't solve anything now. Even if that's true, it doesn't excuse what you've done. The maltreatment, the embezzlement, the corruption. You're a hunter, Trevor. You've hurt people." I know I screwed up, but I'm not the monster you think I am." "Yes, you are. You just never had to face consequences before." "What about Sienna? What about the baby? What about them? If it's yours, you'll have a child. If it's mine, I'll take responsibility. But either way, destroying me won't help that kid." He was right, and I hated him for it. The baby was innocent, regardless of paternity. My war with Trevor would affect that child for the rest of its life. "Too late for regrets," I said. "It's not too late. We can settle this quietly. You get your money, I disappear. Start over somewhere else. Give everyone a chance to move on. No deals, no settlements. You're going to face trial and you're going to lose. And when you're sitting in prison, thinking about how you got there, remember this conversation?" I started walking toward my truck. Trevor followed me. "You're making a mistake, Eli. You think revenge will make you feel better, but it won't. It'll just make you like me. Maybe. But at least I'll be honest about what I am." "What are you?" I turned around to face him. "I'm the man who destroyed you, and I'm proud of it." Trevor grabbed my arm. "You don't get to walk away from this. You've ruined my life." I jerked free from his grip. "You ruined your own life. I just made sure everyone could see what you really are." You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a bitter man who couldn't keep his wife happy. That crossed a line. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the alcohol on his breath. Say that again. Your wife came to me because you weren't man enough to satisfy her. She told me all about your performance problems, your emotional distance, your boring. I kicked him. Not a calculated punch this time, just pure rage. My fist connected with his nose, and I heard the cartilage crack. Crimson smear exploded across his face. He stumbled backward, hit his car, and slid down to the concrete. Crimson smear poured from his nose, staining his white shirt crimson. You broke my nose, you psycho. And I'll break more if you keep talking. Trevor pulled out his phone, started dialing. I'm calling the police. This is attack. Go ahead. But first, let me show you something. I pulled out my own phone, opened the voice recording app. It had been running for the last 5 minutes, capturing everything Trevor had said, including the part where he'd admitted that Sienna had initiated the divorce plans. Very interesting conversation, Trevor. I'm sure my lawyer will find it useful. And the police might be interested in your earlier comment about making my life difficult. His face went pale beneath the crimson smear. You were recording me? Just like someone recorded you and my wife. Funny how that works. Trevor's phone was still in his hand, but he wasn't dialing anymore. He was trapped, and he knew it. Any call to the police would just create more evidence against him. You can't keep doing this, he said. The attack charges, the lawsuit, the media circus, it has to end somewhere. It ends when you're in prison. And what about your wife? What about the baby? You're so focused on destroying me, you're not thinking about the collateral damage. Sienna made her choices. She can live with the consequences. The baby didn't make any choices. He was right again, and it infuriated me. The child was innocent, caught in the middle of a war between adults who should have known better, but it was too late to change course now. The machine I'd set in motion was unstoppable. That's not my problem anymore. It will be if it's your kid. DNA test will sort that out. Trevor struggled to his feet, still holding his broken nose. Crimson smear dripped onto the concrete between us. You're going to regret this, Eli. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday you'll realize what you've become. What have I become? A monster, just like you think I am. He got in his car and drove away, leaving drops of crimson smear on the garage floor. I stood there for a few minutes, processing what had just happened. Another attack charge, probably, more legal complications, but also more evidence of Trevor's desperation. I drove home through the Chicago evening, past the construction sites and office buildings where normal people lived normal lives. People who went to work, came home to their families, watched television, and went to bed without plotting anyone's destruction. I envied them. The house was dark when I arrived. Sienna hadn't been back since the night she'd told me about the pregnancy. Her sister had called twice, trying to arrange a meeting to work things out. I declined both times. There was nothing to work out. I poured a whiskey and sat in my living room, thinking about Trevor's words. Was I becoming the monster I was trying to destroy? Was revenge worth the cost? My phone rang. Nora Fielding. Eli, we have a problem. Jennifer Walsh just called me. She's being followed. By who? Private investigators, probably hired by Trevor. They're trying to intimidate her, get her to withdraw her statement. Is she okay? Scared, but okay. But this confirms what we suspected. Trevor's not going down without a fight. What do you recommend? We accelerate the timeline. Get everything to the prosecutors now before he can silence more witnesses. The next morning, I met with the district attorney's office. Assistant DA Sarah Chen was handling the case, a sharp woman in her 40s who specialized in white-collar crime. I brought all the evidence, the files Nora had provided, the financial records, the testimony from Trevor's sufferers. This is extensive, Chen said, flipping through the documents. But building a criminal case takes time. We need to verify everything, interview witnesses, coordinate with federal authorities on the financial crimes. How much time? 6 months minimum, maybe a year. Trevor's using that time to intimidate witnesses. He's got private investigators following people, threatening them. We can offer witness protection for anyone who feels unsafe. But, Mr. North, I need to ask you something. Are you committed to seeing this through? Because once we file charges, there's no going back. This will be a very public, very ugly trial. I'm committed. even if it means your personal life becomes public record? Your marriage, your wife's affair, the circumstances of your attack charge? Especially then, I want everyone to see what Trevor Burke really is. Chen nodded. Then we'll move as quickly as we can, but you need to stay clean. No more confrontations, no more violence. Any additional charges against you will undermine our case. I left the DA's office feeling cautiously optimistic. The system was slow, but it was working. Justice might actually be served. That optimism lasted exactly 3 hours. I was at home reviewing documents for my divorce attorney when Sienna showed up. She looked terrible, pale, thin, dark circles under her eyes. The pregnancy wasn't showing yet, but the stress was written all over her face. "We need to talk," she said. "I thought we covered everything last time. I lost the baby." The words hit me like a physical blow. I sat down heavily on the couch, trying to process what she'd said. When? Yesterday. Feticide. The doctor said stress was probably a factor. I didn't know how to feel. Relief that we wouldn't have to deal with the paternity question. Grief for a child that might have been mine. Guilt that my war with Trevor had contributed to its end. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "Are you? Because this is what you wanted, isn't it? No baby to complicate your revenge. I never wanted this. You wanted to destroy everything in Trevor's life. Well, congratulations, you succeeded." She sat down across from me, tears streaming down her face. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married 14 years ago. Young, vulnerable, hopeful about the future. "I know I hurt you," she said. "I know what I did was wrong. But this has gone too far, Eli. People are getting hurt. I'm getting hurt. You should have thought about that before you decided to screw your boss. I can't take it back. I can't undo what I did. But I can try to make it right. How? Drop the lawsuit. Stop feeding information to the media. Let me divorce you quietly, fairly. We can both move on with our lives." What about Trevor? What about him? He's finished. His company is bankrupt, his wife left him, his reputation is destroyed. Isn't that enough? No, it's not enough. He needs to face criminal charges. Why? Because you need him to suffer more? Because he's a criminal? Because he's hurt people? Because someone needs to hold him accountable? And that someone has to be you? Yes. Sienna wiped her eyes. You've changed, Eli. The man I married wouldn't have done this. He would have been hurt, angry, but he wouldn't have become so cold. Maybe the man you married was weak. Maybe he was human. She left without another word. I sat in my empty house, thinking about what she'd said. Had I changed? Was I becoming someone I didn't recognize? I called my sister Lana. She answered on the first ring. "How are you holding up?" "Sienna lost the baby." Silence. Then, "Oh, Eli, I'm so sorry." She says it's my fault. The stress from the lawsuit, the media attention. She says I killed it. That's not fair. And it's probably not true. Feticides happen for lots of reasons. But what if she's right? What if my need for revenge cost an innocent life? Then you need to decide if that's something you can live with. I don't know if I can. Then maybe it's time to stop. You've hurt Trevor, exposed him publicly. Maybe that's enough. He's still free. He's still walking around like he's the sufferer in all this. And you think putting him in prison will make you feel better? I think justice will make me feel better. Justice or revenge? What's the difference? You tell me. I hung up. No. Closer to an answer than when I'd called. The line between justice and revenge had blurred so completely that I couldn't see it anymore. The criminal trial began 6 months later. By then, Trevor had been indicted on 14 counts of embezzlement, sexual maltreatment, and bribery. The media circus was everything Assistant DA Chen had promised. Cameras outside the courthouse, reporters shouting questions, protesters carrying signs demanding justice for Trevor's sufferers. I testified on the third day. William Garrett had prepared me well, walking me through every detail of my story. The discovery of the video, the confrontation at the party, the evidence of financial crimes. The jury listened intently as I described Trevor's pattern of misuse, his attempts to intimidate witnesses, his complete lack of remorse. Trevor's defense attorney tried to paint me as an obsessed ex-husband, seeking revenge against the man who'd stolen his wife. He brought up my attack conviction, my history of violence, my military background. He suggested that I'd orchestrated the entire scandal to destroy an innocent man. Mr. North, the defense attorney said during cross-examination, isn't it true that you've been plotting Trevor Burke's destruction since the moment you discovered his relationship with your wife? I've been seeking justice since I discovered his crimes. Justice or revenge, same thing in this case. Is it? Because from where I sit, it looks like you've used the legal system as a weapon to settle a personal grudge. Trevor Burke used his position of power to misuse women and steal money. I exposed him. If that's revenge, then I'm proud of it. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Testimony from 8 women who'd been maltreated by Trevor, financial experts explaining how he'd hidden millions in offshore accounts, city officials admitting they'd taken bribes in exchange for construction permits. Trevor took the stand in his own defense. He was polished, articulate, the confident CEO trying to explain away years of criminal behavior. He claimed the women had misunderstood his intentions, that the financial irregularities were accounting errors, that the bribes were legitimate consulting fees, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts: 25 years in federal prison, asset forfeiture, restitution to his sufferers, complete and total destruction. I should have felt triumphant. This was what I'd worked for, what I'd sacrificed everything to achieve. But sitting in that courtroom, watching Trevor Burke led away in handcuffs, I felt empty. The media wanted interviews. Reporters wanted to know how it felt to see justice served, whether I planned to write a book, what my next move would be. I declined them all. I went home to my empty house and poured a drink. The divorce had been finalized 2 months earlier. Sienna had moved to California, taken a job with a nonprofit. We hadn't spoken since the day she'd told me about the feticide. My phone rang. It was Jennifer Walsh, the first woman who'd agreed to testify against Trevor. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it. Yeah, we did. You don't sound happy." "I don't know how I feel. I feel free. For the first time in 3 years, I feel like I can breathe again. That's because of you, Eli. Because you were willing to fight when no one else would. It cost me everything. But it was worth it, wasn't it? Knowing that he can't hurt anyone else?" I thought about the question. Was it worth it? 25 years of Trevor's life in exchange for my marriage, my peace of mind, my sense of who I was as a person? Ask me in a few years. I hung up and walked out to my garage. The heavy bag was still there, still taking punishment. I wrapped my hands and started knocking it, working out the anger and confusion and regret that had been building for months. Each punch was a memory. The video, the party, the arrest, the trial, the empty house, the broken marriage, the dead child who might have been mine. I punched the bag until my hands bled, until my shoulders ached, until I couldn't lift my arms anymore. Then I sat on the concrete floor and tried to figure out what came next. Trevor Burke was in prison. Justice had been served. The monster had been slain. So why did I feel like I'd lost the war? The answer came to me slowly, over the weeks that followed. I'd won every battle. The lawsuit, the criminal trial, the public relations war. But in destroying Trevor, I'd also destroyed myself. The man who'd started this fight was gone, replaced by someone harder, colder, more ruthless. Maybe that was the real cost of revenge. Not just what you lose, but what you become in the process of taking it. I was thinking about this 6 months later, sitting in a coffee shop downtown, when I saw him, Trevor Burke, walking down the sidewalk outside. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating. He was supposed to be in federal prison. Then I remembered he'd been released pending appeal. His lawyers had found some procedural error, gotten him out on bail while they challenged the conviction. The justice system's finest hour. He looked different, thinner, older, broken in a way that had nothing to do with physical appearance. The confident CEO was gone, replaced by a man who jumped at shadows. He saw me through the window and stopped. For a long moment, we stared at each other through the glass. Then he came inside. Eli. Trevor. He sat down across from me without being invited. "I heard about the divorce. I'm sorry. Are you?" "Yes. Whatever you think of me, I never wanted your marriage to end. You screwed my wife for 8 months. What did you think would happen?" I don't know what I thought. I wasn't thinking clearly. The waitress came over and Trevor ordered coffee. His hands shook as he reached for his wallet. How's prison treating you? I'm not in prison. Appeal bond. For now. Yeah, for now. He sipped his coffee. You know, I've had a lot of time to think about what happened. About what I did, what you did. The whole situation. And I think we both lost. I'm not the one facing 25 years. No, but you're not the same man you were when this started. I can see it in your eyes. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Isn't it? The Eli North I knew, the one who worked for me for 8 years, he was a good man. Honest, decent, fair. What happened to him? You happened to him. You and my wife. We gave you a choice. You could have walked away, gotten a quiet divorce, moved on with your life. Instead, you chose war. You gave me no choice. Everyone has a choice, Eli. You chose revenge over forgiveness, destruction over reconstruction. And now we're both paying the price. I wanted to argue with him, but part of me knew he was right. I'd had options, other paths I could have taken. I'd chosen the one that led to maximum damage for everyone involved. What do you want, Trevor? Absolution? Forgiveness? I'm fresh out of both. I want to make things right. 25 years too late for that. It's never too late. I've been talking to the other women, Jennifer, the others who testified. I want to set up a foundation, provide counseling and legal support for maltreatment sufferers. Use my remaining assets to help people instead of hurt them. Guilt money. Maybe. But it's still money that can help people. And you want me to what? Endorse your redemption tour? I want you to consider the possibility that people can change, that even someone like me can learn from their mistakes. I studied his face, looking for signs of deception. But he seemed genuine, humbled in a way I'd never seen before. Prison, even the threat of it, had broken him down and rebuilt him into something different. Even if I believed you'd changed, it doesn't erase what you did. I know. Nothing can erase it. But maybe I can spend whatever time I have left trying to balance the scales. And if your appeal fails, if you go back to prison, then I'll find ways to help from inside. There are programs, educational initiatives. I'm not asking for a second chance at my old life. I'm asking for a chance to make my remaining life meaningful. Trevor finished his coffee and stood up. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Eli. I'm not asking you to forget what I did. I'm just asking you to consider that maybe the war is over. Maybe it's time for both of us to find a different way forward. He left money on the table and walked away. I watched him through the window as he disappeared into the crowd, just another broken man trying to find meaning in the wreckage of his life. I sat there for another hour, thinking about what he'd said. Was the war over? Had I won, or had we both lost? And what came next for a man who'd defined himself by his need for revenge? The answer, when it came, was surprisingly simple. I went home, pulled out my laptop, and started writing. Not a book about revenge or justice or the destruction of Trevor Burke. Just the story of what had happened, as honestly as I could tell it. Maybe someone else would read it and make better choices than I had. Maybe they'd find a way to seek justice without becoming the thing they were fighting against. Maybe they'd understand that revenge, no matter how justified, always comes with a price. Or maybe they'd just see it as the story of two men who destroyed each other over a woman who wasn't worth either of their souls. Either way, it was my story, the only one I had left to tell. I wrote for 6 hours that first day, then 6 more the next day, and the day after that. Slowly, painfully, I put it all down. The discovery, the rage, the planning, the destruction. The empty victory and the hollow aftermath. When I finished, 3 months later, I had a manuscript and a decision to make. I could publish it, add one more layer to the public humiliation of Trevor Burke. Or I could keep it private, a personal reckoning with the choices I'd made. I chose a third option. I sent copies to 3 people: Jennifer Walsh, Nora Fielding, and Trevor Burke. Let them decide what to do with it. Let them judge whether the story needed to be told or should remain buried. Trevor's response came first. A handwritten letter delivered by courier. Eli, thank you for your honesty. I recognize the man in your story, both the one I was and the one you became. I hope we can both find ways to be better men going forward. The foundation is moving ahead. Jennifer has agreed to help run it. Maybe someday you'll consider joining us, not for my sake, but for the people we can help. Jennifer called the next day. It's a powerful story, Eli. Raw, honest, painful. People need to read this. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Maybe that's exactly why you should do it. Because you're not doing it for glory or revenge. You're doing it because it's true. Nora's response was typically direct. Publish it. Show people what happens when power goes unchecked, but also show them what happens when good people choose revenge over justice. Both lessons matter. So I published it. Not as a bestseller, not as a movie deal, just as an honest account of what happens when ordinary people are pushed too far. The reviews were mixed. Some called it a cautionary tale. Others saw it as revenge adult movie. But the letters from readers were unanimous. They recognized themselves in the story, the choices they'd made or might make when faced with betrayal and corruption. Trevor's appeal failed. He went back to prison to serve his full sentence. But the foundation he'd started continued, helping sufferers of workplace maltreatment and attack. Jennifer ran it with the kind of passion that comes from personal experience. Sometimes I donated to it, anonymously. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement that even broken people can try to fix what they've damaged. Sienna never contacted me after the book came out. I heard through mutual friends that she'd married a doctor in San Francisco, was happy, had put the whole Chicago nightmare behind her. I hoped that was true. Everyone deserved a second chance at happiness, even people who'd made terrible choices. As for me, I was still figuring out what came next. The house felt less empty now, more like a place where someone actually lived. I'd started dating again, carefully, slowly, with the kind of wariness that comes from having your trust shattered. But there was something to be said for starting over with no illusions about love or loyalty or the things people do to each other when they think no one's watching. The story ended, as most stories do, not with a grand gesture or a moment of revelation, but with the quiet recognition that life goes on. People make choices, face consequences, and either learn from their mistakes or repeat them. Justice sometimes wins, sometimes loses, and sometimes it's impossible to tell the difference. I destroyed Trevor Burke, saved his sufferers, and lost myself in the process. Whether that made me a hero or a villain depended on who was keeping score. But I'd learned something valuable. Revenge might feel like justice, but it tastes like ash when you're eating it alone. The manuscript ended there, with me sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee, and watching the sunrise through windows that nobody had helped me choose. It wasn't the ending I'd planned when this all started, but it was the ending I'd earned. And sometimes that's the only kind of justice that matters.